Thank you very much. And hopefully you can see my slides up in front of you there, which is great. So thank you very much for the invitation. I've got about 15 minutes with you this evening just to really give you an overview of what we've been doing with our State of UK Midwifery Finance Report, how it came about and what we found. So I'm just going to move this on. So just to give you a bit of the background, some of you might be aware that the Royal College of Midwives did a State of Midwifery Education report back in 2023. So just to kind of tell you where we are in terms of numbers of students, this was taken from a series of freedom of information requests that we've put out to universities over the past decade. And we were looking for trends and patterns and what our student population was looking like right now. And at that time when that report came out, just to sort of set the scene for you, we know that there has been a significant increase in the number of student midwives in the UK, about 68% since when we did our first one in 2011, 2012. And there's about an average of about 205 students per institution, and that was in 22-23. However, our attrition rates, those are students that are leaving courses, have been creeping up, and we're almost at a 14% attrition rate for students that are leaving. We had an average of about 28.1 students had left their programme during 21-22. Some of those were a temporary leave of absence, and some were permanent. There was lots of different reasons for that, and you can go into that State of Education report to find out more. But interestingly, ill health and also universities classing it as other, which our student midwives told us that financial issues was a huge concern to them. And they had known, many of them had known students who had left because of financial concerns. So that was kind of the background of where we started. It was quite clear after we did that report, there were a number of students who were coming to us talking about what was happening to them, the struggles that they had, why they had considered leaving. And finance came up time and time again. And it was really important. We wanted this report really to highlight what the state is of financial support for all 4 countries of the UK. We wanted to raise awareness of the differences because it was quite clear, depending on where you study midwifery, it has very different financial support that's available for you. And we wanted to collate the information because we wanted to lobby the government and our student bodies across the UK to really amplify your voice as student midwives, what you were experiencing. So I really have to give the acknowledgement for this report and the work that's led up to it, really to the RCM Student Midwife Forum. If you're not aware, student members of the college can nominate themselves forward to be a representative for their region or their country, and they come together on a regular basis to look at issues and topics that are important to students, representing the people in their region or their country. And this is quite an old picture now, and unfortunately Melanie, who was one of the main instigators of this report, is not in that picture. But they really wanted something that they could take to politicians, healthcare leaders, and the public, so people could understand what they're struggling with, the debt, the financial worries, and the lack of funds. And it's not just about them. Many of these students also had families that they were supporting. We wanted to use our opportunity as a Royal College to get students in the door of places where big decisions are being made. And it was interesting, when we had started this work, it was a coincidence that the Westminster Parliament were debating the issue of pay and financial support for all healthcare students in November last year. So in preparation for that, we very quickly put together a student survey, which we sent out to all our student members. And I do have to say a big thank you. I mean, there was over 1,000 student members got back to us very, very quickly, telling us what their situation is. They were very open, they were very honest, and very vulnerable as well in terms of what was happening to them and difficult decisions they were having to make. And what we did was we used that data to inform the debate, and the college was referenced throughout in the student stories. And then we used that also to then do this report, looked at the data and these stories that students had given us permission to share. At the same time, there was an all-party parliamentary group in England, and we did have a student member attend with RCM staff, and it was really powerful actually hearing all the healthcare students that were there. And then also at the same time, the Scottish students, because of that differences in the support that we get in each of the countries, they went ahead and looked at Scottish data and put it very quickly into a separate report, which was presented in May this year. And that top picture there you can see in the right is a roundtable that took place in the Scottish Government that was led by 3 student member speakers. And you could hear a pin drop in terms of their stories. And it was really powerful stuff. And actually, I have to say, they have managed to get a little bit of movement now in Scotland round about the timely expenses of getting their expenses back, because sometimes students are waiting 12 weeks and more. But really, really powerful things. I mean, just to give you a couple of highlight stats from what we found, and this is all in the report. In England alone, 3/4 of the students told us they were expecting to graduate with at least £40,000 worth of debt. In Scotland, 71% of students had taken on additional debt, despite the fact that they had a £10,000 bursary, which hadn't kept up with inflation. Wales, the students in Wales had told us about them working bank shifts or even additional jobs just to try and make even an extra £400 a month to cover childcare costs. And we also had student midwives in Northern Ireland telling us they were working at least 60 hours a week just to stay afloat with their household bills. There is much more there in the report you can go and look at, and some really powerful stories as well. And I do urge you to have a look at it. So from that and from speaking to the students, we constructed 4 main recommendations for all UK students. The first one being about increased financial support. Now, that could be different in each of the countries. I've mentioned the bursary that some countries have. We've also got preserved benefit entitlement. We heard some, really wild stories about student midwives down in England who unfortunately didn't qualify for childcare support because they were classed as a student and they didn't had to work a certain amount of hours to be able to qualify for that. We also wanted to see prompt reimbursement of the cost of student placements because there was a huge amount of travel and accommodation costs that students were making, and it was taking months sometimes for them to get that back. And we also spoke about maintenance loans. So obviously not all areas in the UK have bursaries. In England, you will have heard much about it this week, actually, the maintenance loan, which supports students with their day-to-day costs. And finally, particularly around about the English situation, it was quite clear to us that students in every country in the UK struggle. But we did want to shine a spotlight on the students in England who do seem to come across slightly worse off than students in the rest of the UK. And at that time, we had a recommendation in there about tuition fees for English midwifery students and other healthcare students to be abolished. Now, if you've been watching the news this week, you will see that some difficult decisions have been made, and we have had an announcement that there will be a 3.1% increase on tuition fees to be matched with a 3.1% increase in maintenance loans for students. And that's all students, not just healthcare students and midwifery students. So while we absolutely understand the reasons for why this has happened, particularly in relation to the crisis that some universities in the United Kingdom are experiencing, we are aware that when we're talking about students that are already graduating with £40,000 worth of debt, we're not going to be seeing numbers go in the right direction. So we have put out a press release earlier this week about that, and we're going to factor this into what we do going forward in terms of actions that we can take. This is one particular story from a 3rd-year student who told us if more financial assistance were given, many of us wouldn't need to work additional hours and could instead focus on refreshing our learning, reflecting on how we could have performed better on shift and protecting our mental health so we are not pouring from an empty cup in practice. And to me, that was it's such a perfect quote that really sums up everything these students are trying to do in order to make sure that they stay on course. Thought it was really interesting as well, just in the last few minutes, to also talk about what could be the wider ripple effect of this. And in the RCM, we have spoken before in terms of attracting people to the midwifery career and our student numbers. And although I have said that we do have the most amount of student midwives that we have had in the last few years, we are starting to see a decline in the number of applicants that are coming forward. So I actually just took the screenshot earlier today. This is taken from UCAS. You can go onto their website and you can look at their end of cycle data. So this was a screenshot of their dashboard of the 24 cycle applicants. So that's the 30th of June deadline of this year. Now it's quite small, so I will sort of say the numbers, but if we look at this year, we received 8,760 applications for midwifery. That is down 10% in 1 year alone from 23, when we had 9,740. If we compare it to 6 years ago, it's actually the lowest that we've had in 6 years. In 2019, we had 9,800 applications. Another interesting thing you will see is this blip round about 2020, 21. And that was really, I suppose, when the NHS and healthcare careers were really at the forefront of people's minds. And we saw this huge increase of applications. I think we can safely say we are well past the effect of the pandemic on that now. And in actual fact, we're seeing numbers go back to even before pre-pandemic levels. Interesting to see as well in terms of age groups. Predominantly still 18-year-olds applying, but actually those coloured bars on the right-hand side there are showing that we are getting students from all age groups that are applying, and these are people that are coming in with significant financial commitments already to be able to study. So we cannot get complacent with this, and we have to really work hard to make sure that midwifery is an attractive career for people to come into, and that they will be supported throughout, not just academically, but financially as well. So what happened after we put the report out? Well, we did get quite a bit of attention from all parts of the United Kingdom. People really recognising the impact it was in terms of students working long weeks, you know, having to leave courses because they couldn't afford, juggling bills, housing bills, energy bills, childcare. So people are aware of this, and it's got it really into people's attention. So what we need to do now is start seeing action from this, and we will continue as a college to be putting this into the places where decisions are being made. On this slide here, we'll work with our members. We want to continue to raise the profile of our student issues. We have already attended the party political conferences that have taken place this year. We're working hard at the moment to secure a roundtable in Parliament, and each of the country teams as well in the UK are working hard for that to happen. As I say, Scotland have had theirs already. And we also want to lobby individual MPs. And I would say to student members, if there are members watching, we are about to release a template for you so that you can complete that yourself and then send that to your local MP so that you can campaign in your local area and show this report to them so that you've got all that data there close to hand and tell them what it means to you. And we all want to make sure we support the students. We'll signpost resources as we get it, you know, funding opportunities, and making sure as well we work very closely with our university colleagues and our student unions to look at what student support is available in a more localised environment as well. And what I would say, if there are people out there that are not members already, join us. We strengthen numbers. This is really our choice, our chance to be activists and to campaign for the things that are important to you. The things that you see here on the screen is just a sample of the work that students have really instigated and led the way on as part of working groups. And we will have quite an exciting piece of work taking place next year when we will be looking specifically around about physical disabilities, because it's been interesting the number of students off the back of this and things that they've considered leaving, but actually physical disabilities is up there as well. So we will be doing some work on that in the new year. So £1.67 a month for your student membership. Come and join us, and we'll make sure we'll get you in the door and speak to the people that are making these decisions. But thank you very much, Sue. I'm going to pass back to you.